All right, guys, it's official. Here we go. This is the trip of a lifetime. This is our first time together here. So just wanted to take a couple minutes, introduce ourselves, get to know each other a little bit better before we start planning our last 30 days here. Talk about any challenges, questions, equipment, gear, training, nutrition, anything leading up to it, and just get a better understanding of each other, so that when we get on that mountain, we can get right to business. So welcome, guys. Let's start with you, Matt. Just go ahead and give us an extremely informal introduction of yourself. Matt's actually the one who put this trip together originally almost 8 or 10 months ago. So he's the reason initially that I got on board with this thing, and he's the reason why I decided to bring a bunch of people with me. So Matt, let's do it, man. Let us know why you decided to do this in the first place.
Yeah, so you guys hear me okay?
Sure.
All right. So about, was it end of October last year, I was just happened to be on the internet, was poking around and came across some image of Kilimanjaro, and within 5 minutes, posted on Facebook. I was like, has anybody done this? Got a couple of responses, and about 15 minutes later, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. So within about a 25-minute time period, it was like, all right, this seems like a good idea. So that was pretty much it. And I think for me personally, just going through a couple of changes and like mental shifts on my, my abilities and what I focus on, some more time with family. Settled one of my companies a little bit ago, and just wanted to spend a little bit more time with my kids. I got a 3 and a 6-year-old. But at this time, at this age, I just want to take advantage of the time I have and doing some stuff that's on my bucket list, which is pretty thick. So this was one of the things that I thought of first. And that's about it. I mean, I wish there was a grand story, but that's really it. I mean, life's too short not to be out there exploring and adventuring and having fun. And I wouldn't feel alive or excited about anything if I wasn't out there doing new challenges. So the first person I thought of was Luke, and so getting him on board and then grabbing a couple other people along the way. One of the guys that's going with us that isn't on the call, his name's Justin. He's in Santorini right now in Greece. Loves to travel as well, but I got a message from him a little bit ago, and he's been out hiking in Greece, so he's getting prepared. But we should have a great group. I'm excited for it. And at the end of the day, this is just one of many adventures that I plan to do as time moves on.
So I interviewed you a couple weeks ago, and I asked you a very serious question. I said, do you have any doubts in your mind that we will summit? Now that we have 2 other people with us that are joining us, I'm going to ask you that question again. Do you have any doubt in your mind that we will summit?
No, I think it's just the time. I think that's why I chose this route. So the Muleshoe route is just adds that extra day. So acclimatization is probably one of the main reasons why people don't summit Kilimanjaro. They don't allow enough time for acclimatization for the body. So that's why I want to add 1 extra day. And one of the additives about doing this route is there's a lot more cool shit to see. I mean, it's just it's a really neat route. There's 5 climate zones, as you guys know. So it just gives a little more time to kind of enjoy the experience, and hopefully our bodies will be ready and prepared as we make that final trek. So the last day will be a doozy, but I think everything leading up to that should be, fairly easy if we've been doing the hike and kind of preparing.
Awesome. Well,
I don't know. I've never been there, so
we could have a blizzard on day 2. Who knows, right? Well, thank you for opening the door, man. I'm really excited about it. Let's go in alphabetical order here. So, Carol, please go ahead. Tell us about you. Obviously, these guys might have seen you online so far, participating in just a couple different things, but we want to hear truly your purpose, some life changes that you're going through leading up to this event, the experience itself, and then doing some volunteer work as well with the Save One Life program. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself too.
Yeah, so I don't know, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I'm Carol. I became a part of the group, actually, just a random connection through a friend that I went to elementary school with, actually, Russ Perry. I was tooling around on Instagram and I saw, like you, Matt, a picture of Mount Kilimanjaro on, I think one of Luke's posts that I kind of found myself at randomly through Russ. And I was like, this looks really cool. And I've always been into just, like you guys, I think, are in the same boat, just trying to explore, get out and see new things. And while we can, and I think while we have the opportunity to, and I think just the luxury to travel, that was something that was really exciting to me. So I think a lot of people are intimidated by doing something like this because they don't know where to start. You know, who do you talk to? Who do you reach out to arrange everything? And to have somebody that, Luke, like you, that has, you know, been training people for over a decade, in just, you know, regular lifestyle, you know, conditioning, but also to have someone like you, Matt, that has been there before. I think it's a really, really neat opportunity. So, that was initially my intention when I reached out to Luke, and I said, hey, you know, I'm tired of the gym. You know, I've done marathons. I've done, you know, a bunch of distance accomplishments for myself, but I'm not really good at being consistent with, I think, the everyday small steps to get towards a big goal. I've always just been like, I can do whatever, and I'm invincible. So I started working with Luke a little bit on just some, you know, body weight training, and I opted into the Grand Canyon experience, and that was really, really fun. I met a bunch of really great people, and I think just my intention along the journey of meeting this group has changed. And so being outside and, you know, having an adventure isn't really the only thing I'm looking for now. I'm looking for really a big change in kind of who I am in my career and what my priorities are. And it's very hard to explain over, you know, a short interview like this, but I'm not one to be comfortable with really going on and on about myself, but I'm trying to get more comfortable with it. So I just think that this opportunity paired with the company I'm with right now, they actually just went out to Tanzania and did Kilimanjaro as well, a group of folks that work specifically with Save One Life, which is an organization that focuses on bleeding disorders. And I'm not sure if you all are familiar with there's a few genetic conditions. Most importantly, I think that you might have heard of is hemophilia. And so these people are in these very, very remote villages without water and just general, you know, things to keep themselves alive and the hygiene factor in place. But to boot, they have a condition that could really be life ending for them if they don't have medical attention and they don't have the medication. So anyways, when Eric Hill, one of the owners of my company, went out this last year, he sent back pictures to us of the hospitals and of the families that we have been shipping medication to, and the little kids that they're directly helping. And they went and actually stayed with the families. And the hospitals were, I mean, if I could, I think the biggest like example I could give you is at like a local recreation center, those aluminum wall-less sheds where people like have grills, you know, birthday parties. That's like the hospital, and they have these like metal beds. There's dirt floors. It's startling. So I think as these pictures came back and Eric shared the story of what these people, you know, live with on a day-to-day basis, it's been more propelled me to make the trip, and I think make it a opportunity for me to make a difference as well. So I'm trying to pair up with Save One Life to most importantly just spread awareness of their organization, because they are smaller. Hemophilia is like one of the very rarest genetic conditions, but it's very, very impactful in the people that have it. So I think just making driving people to the website, teaching people about what it is, and then ultimately trying to raise money for them to continue to keep their lights on. And one of the other things that they do is actually pair people in the States up with children directly in Africa. They actually have multiple locations across the globe, but specifically Africa, because of what we're doing, that you can sponsor a child. And it's not like any other sponsorship I've ever seen. I actually sponsored a little boy right when I heard from Eric and kind of he shared his story with me. So you guys will learn more about that, but that's essentially the cause behind what I'm doing. And I think the excitement about just this being more of a meaningful trip other than just, a bucket list for me, for the first time ever to actually go do something for someone else. So
it's a great cause, and these guys
Cool.
don't know all the details of it, but they're big networkers as well. So as soon as we get that website launched, we'll spread that out to you guys and see if you can't share that out as well. So it'd be cool to raise X amount of dollars as we're making this venture together, and then of course when we get back, we have a bigger story to tell and a lot of photos to share. So appreciate that, Carol. Awesome job. Good work.
Yep, to have the website up. I'm hoping to be back from her by tomorrow. They've got a third party that actually does all the placement of the copy and all of that, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. But I will be sending out information as soon as we have that up and running. So
awesome. Very cool. All right, Gary, why don't you wrap it up? Let us know how you got involved on this trip. Former school teacher, former football coach, now spends 19 floors a week walking to work up in a high-rise in Los Angeles. That's been his homework for the past few months. And I believe we got it down to under 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, right?
Yeah, we do. And feeling pretty good afterwards. So first couple. Thanks, Luke. Well, as you know, and I don't know whether you guys know, I work with Najla, and Najla and I have known each other for probably 16 years. And there was a period there where we kind of went our own ways, and family and work and things like that sort of took Najla to Arizona, and I kind of worked to start with a few guys to start our own company. And just a couple years ago, we got it back together. And so Najla and I were at lunch, and she goes, "Well, Luke's going to Africa." And I said, "Well, what do you mean he's going to Africa?" She goes, "Yeah, he's going to trek up Kilimanjaro." I said, "Really? What a cool thing!" And I had a little, just a little bit of an understanding of the trip. There was a couple of people that I have contact with through work that had done it with their wives just a year and a half ago. And so without even thinking really too hard about it, I said, "Is there room on the trip?" And she goes, "Yeah, I think so." And I said, "I'm in." And and I knew Luke and I trusted Luke. So I figured, you know what? We'll figure out a way. We'll get this together, and we'll get my body ready, which was always something in the back of my mind anyway that I was working on, needed to do. And it's funny, you go through life and you're pretty active, and you can usually do anything you want to do physically, and then all of a sudden you just get up out of a chair one day and you got to try to do something. You say, "Hell, I can't do this anymore." And all the key numbers that the doctors are interested in aren't what they used to be. They just start sliding away from you. And so you need to create something in your life that changes that. And this really sort of fit into some other goals that I had. And so it's I'm happy. I am stoked. Every day I'm reading something about it, and I am getting myself ready. So you guys don't have to worry. I will be ready for sure.
Well,
Awesome.
I'll give you 2 quick tips because now we're getting closer. After you start to grow the beard, you get a small comb and you brush it down. That way you train it to be in the right position. So you have an African beard. Carol, you'll just have
I'm going to have to
dreadlocks.
start. I'm going to have to start.
You guys don't want to know what I'm going to have.
Let me get this straight. We are not showering, correct? I mean, for 7 days, I believe. Is that right, Matt?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I've been practicing.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't like it. But,
Yeah. My wife wasn't too happy about the beard either, but we're going to get through this thing. So a couple little things, guys. Feel free to jump in at any point here. And we're not going to talk about all the great details of this experience, but there are some little hacks and tips that I've started to really just hold on to throughout these last couple weeks, right? Little knickknacks, little personal things, small coins, $2 bills, things that we can give to some of the kids and some of the people that are helping us out. Any kind of clothes that you're okay to depart with, wearing those as layers so that we can then donate those clothes to the local families that are in the villages. Taking everything on the plane in our carry-on that we cannot risk losing. And I unfortunately heard this story of, the guy or the girl who packs their bag and their hiking boots and their sleeping clothes, their bag gets lost in the transition and in the travel. So your hiking boots, the most important necessities, if at all possible, keeping those in your carry-on or carrying a little bit larger size carry-on. Obviously, you guys have a gear list. We talked about layers, and layers are extremely important, but ultimately we stay away from all cotton. We're trying to do things like polyester. There's a couple different 50-50 even works okay, but the main thing is that we have an underlayer pant and underlayer top. From there, we put on that second layer, and that second layer could be like a fleece, pair of zip-up pants, joggers, maybe a quarter zip, and then we talk about that third layer, that mid layer. I'm not going to be wearing multiple layers in pants, only upper body. I'm wearing like skiing or snowboarding pants is my third layer. Third layer, then zip up fourth layer, a hoodie of some type, and then your fifth layer being your shell. And just depending on how well you run, whether you run hot or cold, it's now winter here in Scottsdale. It's 79 degrees, and I'm freezing. So I'm going to be taking warmer clothes. We talked about the hoo-rag or the handkerchief to be blocking your mouth and your nose from all the dirt. Extremely important necessities. A pair of socks for each day. You're changing your socks each and every day. So getting a pair of wool or wicker socks, really important. And then a liner, right? We talked about the sleeping bag, finding a zero bag. It's going to keep you comfortable. I'm going to be taking a travel pillow like most of us have. That'll be the same pillow that I use to sleep with. So I'm not taking 2 pillows here. And most likely that's an inflatable pillow. So when we're packing, obviously packing as deep as we possibly can into our bag so that we don't worry, we're not carried about wrinkles or anything like that. We want to be able to pack as much stuff into that bag as possible. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get closer, but those are really the necessities. Having a pair of waterproof boots, spraying those boots with some kind of protective layer to keep the water out. A hat, an umbrella hat or a boonie hat like this. When we depart for our final ascend, it's gonna be midnight, it's dark. So taking sunblock and a boonie hat like this, even though it's pitch black when we leave. My mom, who did this trip about 10 years ago, got extremely sunburnt below her eyes, around her eyes, and they had zero contact with the sun until later in the day. So just little things like that we want to make sure. I'm pretty sure we've gotten through our vaccination list by now. Everybody has, a certain series of injections that they've decided to go with. and they have their malaria kit and any other medicine that they've decided to take. Matt, did you ever find out about your allergy to sulfa and taking diamoxin?
Yeah. So I ended up ordering one pill, and I tried it yesterday, worked out just to see, because I do have an allergy to sulfa. Tried it out and didn't have a reaction. So I got another half pill I'm going to try in the morning, but I'm going to go with it. And I'm also going to order the secondary backup, tetracycline or whatever it is. I'm going to order both of those so I have them just in case. But yeah, I didn't have any reactions.
Yeah, so we found that out when I went to see the travel doc, that I'm allergic to all sulfa and penicillin medication. So because of that, I cannot take diamoxin, which is the best altitude sickness medicine to take. There is another brand. There is another one that I'm going to be taking. But just so you guys know, if you have any allergies to sulfa medicine, you've got to go with a different brand. You have to go with a different one because you're already going to be feeling nauseous and sick. The last thing you want to do is give you something that's going to make you even more sick. An EpiPen was something else that I was told to possibly take for an emergency piece, whether or not our guides will have them or not. If it's a risk factor for you, then I say, go ahead and drop the $50 or $60 coin and carry it with you. I'll let you, Carol, be the one to stab me in the heart with adrenaline if we start to go cold at any point on this thing. But that's about it. We're not taking a ton of stuff, right? This is a minimalist trip, right? We're not doing the REI version of this where they're going to have electric lights and we're going to be sleeping in tents with pads. We're doing this the way that it's supposed to be done. We're going to be sleeping outside underneath the stars, and we're just going to deal with those conditions when we get them. But we've talked about this, the importance of these layers, the importance of nutrition, the importance of heat or warmth, and then the importance of comfort. That's kind of the three things. I know for me, I'm going to be taking more packaged American food than I am more warmer clothes, right? So our guides will take up to 50 pounds in their back, in their sacks. The rest of it we will need to carry ourselves. So I'm going to be taking things like Lara bars, instant coffee, beef jerky, because at the end of the day, this is a vegetarian meal that they're going to be providing us with. But again, if the vegetables or the fruit don't have rinds to them, then we are eating foods that are possibly contaminated. So we have to be cautious of that, right? Anything with ice in it when we're at the hotel, we also have to stay away from as well. And I know you guys all have experience with international travel, but I was one of those guys when we went to Mexico a couple years ago I figured I couldn't go wrong with the soup. Well, that was a huge mistake. Even the salad was a huge mistake because the lettuce had been washed in water. When we go to brush our teeth, they should bring us fresh water every time we do that. And when we wash ourselves at the end of the night, making sure that the bottle seal has not been broken as well when they hand us bottled water. So making sure you have a good Camel Pack source. I did order a gift for us all, which is the Life Straw. So they'll bring us water. We put that water in our Life Straw. We drink out of that Life Straw, and that's just an extra layer to keep away from any kind of bacteria. And those are really just the most important things, right? Obviously sleep, obviously footwear. I'll bring this stuff called Bag Balm. You guys don't have to worry about it. There's enough for all of us. Just to put it anywhere where we might have any kind of friction, feet, toes, ankles, underwear line, armpits, nipples, waistline, anything like that. And it truly does help prevent blisters. Something leading up to this we also have to be very careful of is any kind of open sores or wounds that you might already have. So I interviewed my cousin-in-law who married my wife's cousin, and a guy named Al Michael Matt, if you remember, he became a pararescueman, and he's working up in Alaska at well above 10,000 feet. And he said the biggest thing we have to watch out for are just small cuts underneath the nail, cuts underneath the toes, things that have not healed leading up to this event. Because once you get up and above 10,000 feet, you actually physically start to die. So if we have anything that's kind of just been nagging around or that we haven't had an opportunity to get cleaned up, that thing will get worse and worse and worse, and it'll begin to fester. So taking care of yourself, making sure your nails are being done, getting a pedicure, a manicure, sawing down any blisters that you may have. If anything does happen or you get any kind of cuts within the next few weeks, just making sure that they're really taken care of before we make this big journey overseas. For me, guys, I've got a lot of travel experience in this country. I always go west, right? I go to Hawaii, and I've been to Japan and Thailand. But this is by far the furthest adventure I've ever been a part of. So international travel, I've gone to a few places, but I'm sure Gary and Carol, you guys have more experience in that realm. So I know how important it is to get a safe trip and to make sure that we're prepared. We will have another one of these leading up to it just to make sure we go over everything. But that boonie hat, obviously 2 pairs of sunglasses, maybe your high-end Maui Jims, and a backup pair. Making sure you have a croaky. We want to be able to be hands-free as much as possible. So to be able to take your sunglasses off around your neck, possibly even having a carabiner on your waistline so you can put things on there as well. And that's about it for just these little hacks. Yeah. Go ahead, Carol.
Just to make sure I understand. So are you suggesting that we don't eat the food that's provided just to be safe because it's really worth risking it?
I'm not, but I just know, and I don't want to use the word picky, but I know the way that we all eat, and we all eat fairly clean. So in my mind, in my eyes, if I'm already starting to feel a little uncomfortable, 2 or 3 days in, I'm probably not. I'm going to stick to the basics. I'm going to stick to, what I know. Larabar jerky, possibly even I'm going to bring a couple cans of tuna. Costco has a tuna brand can that has a pop top, so we don't have to worry about it. Just a lot of snack foods. Maybe not necessarily to go 100% in that direction, but if we can kind of offset, if we know that, hey, dinner is disgusting, but breakfast and lunch are okay, maybe we just manage that.
I'm not even worried about the quality. Yeah, I'm not even worried about the quality of it. I just was like thinking of what you're saying as far as, the GI possibility. And once that kind of starts, it's, downhill from there. So then I was trying to think if maybe I should try to bring food for every day just in case. That's definitely what I'll probably do then.
Yeah, so my travel doc had a great tip. She said, look, here's the deal. Bring some Pepto-Bismol, some pills, or even some, not Midol. I forget. One of the
Kaopectate.
What is it?
Kaopectate.
Kaopectate. Yeah, she said try to handle it that way at first. And then if you can't manage it, then use the Cypro. Right. So at the end of the day, the last thing we want to have is, uncontrollable stomach problems or issues when you're hiking, at that pace and at that rate, to go along with everything else that we're dealing with, being tired and the altitude. So, water, nutrition and hydration. I mean, in my mind, I thought, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to bring my 300-ounce water bag and fill it up at the hotel. And then that way we have clean, fresh water. That's not really the experience, right? Enough people have gone through this that we know of that said it was safe. It may not be ideal or perfect, but we're going to take that chance and that risk. We're going to bring a couple different things to help manage it the way we know how. Extra snacks, extra food, bringing a supplement we've all used called Tailwind, just to give us a little bit of, additional sugar along the track. Things like that I think we're totally cool with. But to think we're going to be able to get away with eating, only our food, it probably won't happen. It'll have to be a balance of some kind.
I think at every meal, though, there should be one thing that we should be able to eat. Maybe there's a mix of some stuff that they're providing, but there's at least one thing that we should be able to consume and not have to worry about. So we'll just have to sense it out when we get there. But I think it'll be okay. Hopefully there's not too many vegetables, but
On on Friday night, I went over to the local Adventure 16 store, and they had a guy who had just gotten back like the end of October, and he's a guide. He's a lead. He's done Kilimanjaro like 20 some times, and he kind of went through some things, and he talked about the food, and he just, you know, he said some companies and some porters are more careful about what they do, and some aren't. But he said, go for the hot, and not just warm, go for the hot food. And, you know, and probably, Luke, like you said, you know, the soup was probably sitting at Baie Marie for half a day, and had gotten cool and then warmed back up. And that's, you know, that's usually the case. And vegetables and salads where they rinse it with local water, not bottled water, you know,
yeah.
That's where it kind of leads to it. But he said, just, you know, because they boil things, and, you know, the potato, the sweet potatoes and the vegetables and so forth.
Yeah.
And okay, if it's been heated well.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about mosquito repellent, and, you know, some of the stuff that we use here that is, you know, pretty low chemical. We know that we need something called DEET. So DEET is the active ingredient. We want a 20 to 50% DEET. And I ordered 2 bottles on Amazon versus looking at the one that, you know, my wife and I carry to soccer games. It's pretty low chemical. I think it's just a series of oils. So that DEET is extremely important. Carol went a little step further, and she got the netted tent. And I looked into that, and I talked to a couple people, and they were like, hey, it's totally up to you, but we can all fit into Carol's net tent if the mosquitoes are really bad.
Yeah, there's no room if y'all want some, but it's pretty cheap to just have with you. You can carabiner onto your bag and just kind of safety precautions. So,
Matt, you want to touch on sleeping bags? I ended up ordering the bag that I told you guys about, and I said that it was way too big. Well, I pulled it out, I folded it, I rolled it, I got it down to about the size that can be carried. And I'm going to be using it again for my event next weekend. So I decided to keep it. But did you guys end up ordering? Matt, did you get a rented tent? What did you do on that end?
So there's the lady that runs G2 Adventures or K2 Adventures here in town. I'm going to her place tomorrow, and fortunately she's done Kili 11 times, and she's letting me just raid her gear closet. So very fortunate with that. So she's going to let me use one of the bags. But if that isn't an option, there's also a company locally, and I'm sure there is one in LA as well, where you can rent gear, and it's actually $55 for a super badass bag for 2 weeks. So, you know, that's an option as well, just to actually rent the bag. That'll be a 5 degree below, which should be plenty adequate.
And REI rents as well. I went in there, I was a little overwhelmed. I thought my the work I did on Amazon and a couple different websites was good. I got a great bag. It was just larger. It was much larger than I had anticipated. So again, if you're planning on doing a lot more adventures, it's probably a good investment to buy a bag that's going to be yours. If you don't necessarily know, you guys can go ahead and rent, but you can't cut the sleeping bag short. The sleeping bag is probably right up there with boots and your backpack to carry you through this thing. One thing I do want to show you guys here.
Disappeared.
So this was just I think I sent this link out. Obviously, you know, we all have these camel packs. Well, these are the bladders, right? So these have blown out on me before. So I'll be taking 2 of these for $20 or $30. I recommend bringing an extra one of these, checking and making sure all your nozzles are working as well. I had to order a new one here, but the one that I sent out was pretty legit. I mean, this is it's a thermo version, and it's 100 ouncer as well. I'll be using this for the Tough Mudder next weekend because it's super flat. But just make sure you bring a second one. anything that is extremely important that you think you're going to need, possibly your glasses, Gary, bringing a second pair, just anything that you can't be without for 24 hours. I highly recommend bringing a second pair and then wrapping it in something protected and putting that in your Ziploc bag. When we get closer to the event, we'll talk about labeling things and bringing the least amount of the most possible stuff that we need, because I can already see stuff is starting to collect. And the last thing I want to do is look like an American traveler with 9 Louis Vuitton bags and a scarf around my neck. And that's not me anyways, but I want to ensure that I don't look like that stepping off the plane, which is why I'm growing the beard to see if I can blend in a little bit more. All right, guys, let's ask.
Maybe one of the things we can.
Yeah.
I was saying one of the things we can do maybe to make sure we're not, duplicating effort is stuff like, Band-Aids, any medical stuff.
Yeah.
Are we all bringing that for ourselves, or maybe do we want to identify what's going to bring that, or, so that we're not carrying extra stuff. I'm happy to help with that. If you, Luke, I don't know what your plan is or what your thoughts are on that, but.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I'm creating a 2 or 3 page PDF for evergreen purposes for moving forward, because everything I saw online is really just, it's kind of bland. When I have that completed, maybe I'll send that out, and you guys, we can take a look and see what we need to bring extras of. Another thing, headlamp, right? I showed you guys a black diamond headlamp. Really important. I've bought a Duracell one that breaks and one that doesn't. So getting a good $35, $40 black diamond headlamp, really important there. One of the things they didn't mention are these little blinking lights that you'll see marathon runners or ultra marathon runners use. I'm bringing a handful of those just for emergency purposes. Even some glow sticks, a couple of those to have in your bag as well. Obviously pocket knife, all those kind of things that are on that list. But anything that really seems of great importance, that's the stuff we got to share the most. But we can definitely take a packing list and split it amongst each other, so we're not all bringing Band-Aids. I'll bring the bag bomb. You guys don't have to worry about that.
There was a couple of things that I was told too that I wanted to share. One is, obviously it will be cold, but I was told to have, an Nalgene bottle, and then you can pour the hot water, which you'll have at your tent side, into the Nalgene. It's really hot. Screw the top on, throw it at the bottom of your sleeping bag so you're sleeping with your feet, and it helps circulate the hot air inside the bag. So it helps, just keep it a little bit warmer than it was supposed to be. 2 other things. One is breathing techniques, and this was a really important one, was as we ascend, once we get up into some higher elevations, every 10 step, 15 step, doing a breathing exercise to help clear the monoxide out of the lungs, because a lot of it's shallow breathing, and so there's some collection monoxide that's in the lower lung area, and so clearing that out and then taking in fresh oxygen, which has allowed some additional blood flow and oxygen to the legs. And then the final one was a step pattern. So going up, like definitely on the final 2 days, but it's a step and then a tap of the toe, and then it helps with the circulation of the toes. So it keeps the blood flow there, and also helps with just a rhythm or a cadence of the walking to keep the pace. So those are some of the things that were shared with me. There's a multitude of other things, and I'll, whatever I learn, I'll share, and we'll compare notes and move forward. But I've learned a ton by just talking for a while to Kristen, who owns the venture company. So just some little things to help things make things a little bit more comfortable, especially descending. She said doing the breathing pretty much the whole way down, and it'll allow you to feel a little bit more refreshed when you actually get into camp instead of just completely crashing.
Yeah, very cool.
I'll be leading morning yoga every day.
Yeah, coffee drinkers.
I'll be in child's pose.
Let me know. For those of you guys that are
that's good, Matt.
For those of you guys that are coffee drinkers, let me know ahead of time. I'm bringing pretty much 2 packets. One is an instant pack, and then there's a bulletproof coffee mixture in there with a little whizzer. So If you're a coffee guy or gal, which I know you are, we'll talk more about that, but bringing some things like that. I'm a $2 bill guy too as well. Every time I go to the bank to cash a check, I pick up $2 bills to give to the kids. So I'll be bringing probably $100 in $2 bills and some gold coins and stuff, so that when we do see some villagers, we're able to give them little knickknacks like that. And then signage, right? Gary, you'll appreciate this. Having some kind of sign, a big shout out, whether it's to yourself or to your family or your friends or your kids or even the future. Think about what you want to do with that. And I know, Matt, you're the guy who ended up buying Printing Solutions, talked about getting a roll. He talked about having a dry erase roll. Take a look into that and let us know. If not, we're just going to bring a dry square and a couple dry erase markers that we can leave daily messages on.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll see how we can make that work.
Cool, guys. Well, hey, awesome job. I'm excited. We are down less than, I'd say about 30 days now, 24 days left in the month, 5 days till we leave. So 28, 4 weeks from now, we'll be on a plane. I know Carol and I are leaving from Phoenix. We got a straight shot into Amsterdam, 0 layover in Amsterdam. Don't worry, guys. And then straight to Tanzania the next day. Gary's coming from LA. Matt's got a slightly different route. But we'll get on another one of these video calls here before the end of the month. And I'm really excited, guys. Thank you for joining me tonight and getting on this call, putting some faces with some names and getting things rolling here. Thank you.
Good to see you guys.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you
Thank
too.
you all. Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye.
Yep.